6 Conservative Misconceptions About Libertarianism. 1. Anarchy and anti-police and military. Libertarianism is not a synonym for anarchy. Under libertarianism, you can still have law, courts, law enforcement, military, etc. Larry Elder and Sean Fitzgerald, held actual justice warrior, are a couple of notable pro-police libertarians. Fitzgerald has even argued for qualified immunity. Even the movies Demolition Man and Hot Fuzz demonstrate that being libertarian does not mean being anti-police. More on those two later. Anyways, being libertarian does not mean you can't be tough on crime. For example, preferring Nayib Bukele over the MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs, as in the case of actual justice warrior. Estonia and Switzerland, a couple of the most libertarian countries in the world, have conscription. And the guys in the above pictures don't look like a clouder of libertine degenerates to me. In 2024, Libertarian New Hampshire supported Texas's border security activities, Operation Lone Star, sending 15 New Hampshire National Guard soldiers and airmen to Texas. It's even possible to be a nationalist as a libertarian. Listen to N of 1, the nationalist case for libertarianism, and the libertarian case for nationalism. 2. Absolute individualism and libertinism, lack of social standards. Freedom of association doesn't mean that you can't associate and work with other people. It simply means that you're free to choose who to associate and work with. Libertarianism is not libertinism. It's totally possible to be socially conservative within your own personal life and community. You, your family, friends, and community can pledge to stay away from vices without getting daddy government involved. And it's also possible to criticize and shame people. Hans Hermann Hoppe, who has a cult following among libertarians and is certainly socially conservative himself, has talked exactly about this kind of thing with covenant communities. Example of being conservative in your personal life, but libertarian social policy is Poland. Poland has a reputation for being a conservative Catholic country, but prostitution is legal, although brothels aren't. Polish government schools do not have uniforms, and most government schools do not even have an enforced dress code from what I've read. I would attribute America's social conservatism on these issues to its post-Puritan heritage. And the Puritans were actually pretty influential in the South, running a lot of schools in the antebellum South. Another example of a libertarian conservative place is Utah. I'd actually argue that a market economy would benefit low-time preference conservative cultures, such as Mormons and Asians, which Thomas Sowell, along with Michael and Simone Collins, have talked about. So the problem of degenerates breeding will eventually solve itself. Also, Richard Hanania and Dave Smith have talked about how social justice / wokeness was not a creation of the market and social freedom, but rather market-created, non-productive bureaucracy and government-funded academia. Continued, just because one supports a market economy does not mean that they agree with every decision a corporation or business makes. For example, one can be a libertarian and support right to repair and the use of free and open source software. Similarly, being a libertarian doesn't mean that one can't support good urbanism, or at least walkable cities. For example, Freedom Alternative, real name Lucien Valsan, supports walkable cities and called North American, actually Anglophone, car-dependent cities dystopian, which you know is bad, considering how he survived Ceausescu's Romania. I mentioned this last part since I've been hearing younger right-wingers complain about car dependency, Black Pigeon Speaks has been talking about this since 2016. Oh, and by the way, I keep hearing social conservatives talk about the common good and policing things like what consenting adults do in the bedroom. I really recommend watching the movies Demolition Man and Hot Fuzz. Anyway. 3. Accepting philia, abortion, and transing children. This one is just absurd. Of course libertarians are against screwing with children and young teens, and against allowing minors to undergo transitioning. Ryan Dawson has done a better job than literally anyone else when it comes to exposing Epstein and child and human trafficking in general. Dawson has also made a video called Is Transgender Sexist? Among others. Freedom Alternative / Lucien Valsan and Neil and Brooke, all atheist libertarians, have criticized transgenderism or things related to transgenderism. Joe Rogan, along with classical liberal Shortfat Otaku and libertarian John Stossel, have all criticized biological men and women's sports. 4. Open borders, unlimited immigration, and protectionism. It's possible to be a libertarian and oppose open borders and unlimited immigration. A few notable examples are Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, Javier Milei, Freedom Alternative / Lucien Valsan, Rudyard Lynch / What a Faultist, Ryan Dawson, and Stickhammer 666, Tarl Warwick. Estonia, the Czech Republic, and Switzerland are all fairly libertarian countries, but they all have little immigration. Poland, a comparatively large country, does not have third world mass migration that many right-wingers complain about. As mentioned before, in 2023/2024, even libertarian New Hampshire supported Texas's Operation Lone Star. When it comes to protectionism, Rudyard Lynch and Nicholas Pardini have both talked about the benefits of protectionism. Operation Lone Star. 5. Nihilism. Meaning does not come prepackaged in libertarianism. You're supposed to bring your own meaning. This is talked about in Tom Woods' Critics Say, You Libertarians Are Soulless Materialists. It's almost like the job of your doctor is to keep you healthy, which is a different job from finding happiness. Apparently, this is like buying a flat-top AR pattern rifle and then complaining it doesn't have sights. 6. Pacifism, isolationism, and non-interventionism. This one's going to be controversial. I run anti-war Substack. As someone who is very critical of the United States' support for Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the military-industrial complex, I'm no longer a strict non-interventionist. Yes, if I ever was one. Short answer, no. You do not need to be a strict non-interventionist or isolationist. Here's my article, Steel Manning Non-Interventionism. Should non-interventionism be abandoned? There's also writings by Roman and Saskew in Liberpedia. I'll link that in the description. And do the rhinos in the Republican Party represent you? Do woke churches represent Christianity? Do Republican politicians who support keeping child marriage legal represent you? Exactly. Are you strawmanning because you don't know your opponent's positions? Or are you trying to justify your sense of superiority over your opponents? Which is the worst sin, as that pride is the worst sin. And wishing to crush your opponents is wrath, also a sin. Now for resources. Libertarians and others. Freedom Alternative, Lucien Valsan. Ryan Dawson with the Anti-Neocon Report. Tom Woods, 666 / Tarl Warwick. Christian Watson, Nick Freitas, Mises Institute, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Malcolm and Simone Collins /pronatalist.org with a fault hist, N of 1, and Gays Against Groomers. For Masculinity, Warrior Poet Society Network, and Bjorn Andreas Bull Hansen. Playlists, video and article, Conservatism versus Libertarianism, on Odyssey and YouTube. Yeah, that's it. Please save links to my profiles. Linktree /say no to democide. libertarianresources.substack.com /p/social media. My Odyssey channel @say no to democide. And my YouTube channel @say no to democide 1. Thank you for watching and listening.